EV sales further hit the toilet, and OEMs and manufacturers are starting to panic. Yes, we've heard all of the stories of range anxiety, poor build quality, expensive tires and battery changes, and as well plug-in stations. All of those things have been talked about 1,000,003 times. But there's other reasons for it, and at the end of the day, let's talk about some of the numbers and what's actually happening, because on one hand, the electric vehicle segment are very proud and true to the, like a peacock fluffing out its feathers thinking, hey, look how good I am. But on the other hand, there's another side of this tale where a lot of people are like, yeah, no, I'll never buy one, not a chance. But before we get into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more great content from a channel that talks about the car news and how to get the best deal during the cost of living crisis. Let's go. So prices are starting to drop on electric vehicles as well. We're seeing this incentives all over the ICE marketplace, and now we're seeing in the electric vehicle space. We see Tesla has been doing all kinds of price slashes. We've got Ford trying to match up with the Mustang Mach-E, trying to compete with the Tesla Model Y. They've been directly head-to-head competitors. Of course, Tesla's always put incentives also on the Model 3s, and now the more premium versions, the X as well as the S, have also seen some big incentives trying to motivate people into the doors. But we're seeing car lots filling up, and that was not something I've ever seen before. Honestly, up until about a few months ago, I could walk into a local Tesla dealership and I could walk down the lot on any given day and I'd be lucky to find maybe a dozen vehicles. But today, they're stacked row on row on row, and now we're probably going from a dozen vehicles up to probably 50, 80 vehicles on the lot. Some of which might be demos, some of them might be service, but at the end of the day, lots of those vehicles are piling up. And a lot of the new models, at the time, remember Tesla was saying, you know what, they're basically build on demand. You go online, you type it out, you figure out your car, it shows up, wham, 3 months later, your car is there. But now I see Tesla starting to load up their lots, probably with both new and used cars. And so at the end of the day, they're just not selling. Lots are filling up. And this isn't just unique to my locale. This is something going on around the nation. And we're seeing inventory building and building and building, and yet the incentives are going up as well. And a lot of these OEMs, Tesla, Mercedes, and the EQ, they're talking about dumping the lineup altogether because the EQE, S, and Bs are not selling at all. The Porsche Taycan, not a selling marvel either. And even worse, the Audi e-tron GTs as well. They're flipping hands for, 50% off the original value in one short year on the used market. Nobody wants them. Nobody's buying this stuff. The Ford Mustang Mach-E has been a relative success for Ford, but the F-150 Lightning wasn't. They were charging a lot of money. People weren't buying them. And now, up until recently, we've seen some big incentives again to try to get people to buy the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightnings. Only then were we able to see some more sales increase. But generally, people are not that appetized, or they don't have a big appetite for buying an electric vehicle. So according to Kelley Blue Book, we've seen the average electric vehicle price drop significantly, 15%, going from about $65,000 on average to about $56,000 for your average transaction fee. But much more telling is IC Cars actually claims on the used car electric vehicle segment a much bigger decline. From May of 2023, at an average rate of $40,000 and change, we've seen a major decline of about 42%, down to about $28,000 this year for your average transaction price on a used electric vehicle. Clearly not selling. And while Hertz was a little bit of a skew, we know they were unloading a big part of their fleet for pennies on the dollar, probably had a little bit of an impact there. But at the end of the day, nobody wants these used electric vehicles, and only the people buying them new are generally early adopters. Now, it definitely seems like a lot of the inventory is rising, which could mean a great deal for anybody even looking into the marketplace. But on top of that, Cox data actually shows that about 1.2 million units were sold last year, electric vehicles in the industry, and they anticipate, based on extrapolating the data, to see very similar numbers this year. In other words, a very stagnant growth, or no growth significantly. While they're selling vehicles and there are new Teslas on the road every single day, or new EQEs or new Mustang Mach-E's, the point is it's a very flat line and there's no acceleration. For an emerging market that should be alive and well, it's certainly not proving to be that way. However, again, there could be some phenomenal deals out there. Watch out for those incentives on the new market, and the used market definitely continues to drop, meaning that you might have a great option to get yourself a cheap used electric vehicle if you've been in the least bit curious. And there are federal tax credits which do close up the gap between electric vehicles vehicles and ICE, a gap that actually does close up pretty significantly when you consider a $7,500 federal tax credit for brand new EVs or almost $4,000 tax credit for qualifying used EVs might mean that the idea of buying that ICE here or that electric vehicle, and if you were ever thinking about buying one, that might be all the difference it takes to close in that gap. And I've always told you, when you're talking about the amount of day supply available, that's usually a pretty good indication as to how hot it is, how hot the vehicle is, if it's selling well, if it's not. Massive days inventory means that they're generally not selling. You'll probably get a good deal, but the manufacturer's pushing for incentives to try to move the products. And we're seeing EVs now at 117 days supply, whereas they normally reside around 45 days supply because Tesla was typically more order on demand. But on top of that, we're seeing the industry average being around 74, 75, 76 days supply, meaning that EVs are outpacing the amount of time that ICEs sit on the lot. In other words, nobody's buying them. So here's a little rhetoric for those people that just love to hear these sort of statistics. The CO2 emissions can be cut by 50% driving an EV over a conventional brand new ICE vehicle, but a hybrid vehicle cuts it down by 25%. So it's going to take a lot longer to reduce your overall footprint buying a hybrid vehicle than it would electric. And on top of it, ICE, well, that's what they're trying to change. Not on my dime. And another big problem people are having with these and starting to realize, about the range anxiety and cost of servicing as well as batteries and all of those other nuances, all those things that people are complaining about. It's this. I mean, what is this? Well, it's my phone and it's the latest. This is an Apple. This is, iPhone 14 Pro Max, I believe it is. But here's the thing. Think about this for a second. This is basically mobile computer, if you will. Yeah, it's a phone, it's a calculator, it's a internet browsing machine, it's everything all in one. But the thing is, this here has a limited lifespan. Everybody's heard the stories about these vehicles, or not these vehicles, these phones only being good for 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden the software updates and the hardware starts to become obsolete, then becomes slower and buggier, and then you find yourself having to upgrade this unit, this phone. Everybody knows that. Nobody has. Who's rocking an iPhone 4? Nobody. Because it's become so obsolete. The updates, we know there was lawsuits for that allegedly as well, because Apple was slamming updates into the system that would slow down the old phones, allegedly. It was forcing you, the technology, the innovation, the applications, and everything to improve that vehicle. Same thing with, say, a Tesla or any other electric vehicle is going to be very similar to your iPhone. It's going to be great today, next year, maybe the year after. But what happens after 5 or 10 years, like your phone, it becomes obsolete, it becomes slow and buggy, and then you actually have to buy the next thing. So it's not even that, the cost of batteries or electric motors. It's that by the time you're changing a battery, that car will be obsolete. The firmware updates will be out of touch. It probably won't be able to match up because it'll be an old firmware number, and you just won't be able to update software, and it just won't be compatible. And that's what we're talking about here. A vehicle that's basically throwaway, like a cell phone. Recycle, hit the recycle bins, and that's the problem. So at the end of the day, you want to check out that on my other channel, Exotic Car Play Place. I talk about why these electric vehicles on the used car segment are so cheap. You definitely want to check it out. Don't forget to subscribe. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.